It started with one quick joke. Just one throwaway line from Kelly Clarkson. Casual, harmless, the kind of thing she's been saying to Blake Shelton for years. She laughed, Blake laughed, but the internet? The internet did not laugh. Within hours, people clipped the moment, slowed it down, analyzed every syllable, and suddenly Kelly's joke wasn't just a joke anymore. It was treated like a reveal, a hint that she knew something about Blake that wasn't supposed to slip out. Fans swore they caught a strange look on Blake's face. Others claimed Kelly's smile said everything. And from there, the situation spun into something way bigger than anyone expected. Because once a rumor hits social media, it doesn't matter what was actually said. It only matters what people think they heard. And this time, people thought Kelly had exposed a secret Blake never meant to share, a secret tied directly to Gwen Stefani. Comments piled up instantly. What did Kelly just reveal? Did Blake look nervous? Why does Gwen look so tense in every clip after this? Some even insisted the joke felt too personal, like Kelly wasn't teasing Blake the friend, but Blake the man holding something back. On TikTok, creators started stitching reaction videos, throwing theories at the wall faster than anyone could keep up with. YouTube channels began dissecting the clip frame by frame. Some people said Kelly's tone shifted. Others claimed Blake's smile dropped for half a second. One blink became a clue. One shrug turned into proof. Before long, the narrative took off. Kelly Clarkson had said something she shouldn't have, and fans were convinced Gwen Stefani wasn't happy about it. What made it explode even more was how ordinary the moment was. Nothing dramatic, nothing emotional, nothing obviously revealing. But that's exactly why it ignited people's curiosity. If something so simple created such a reaction from fans, then what was everyone really picking up on? And just like that, the story turned into a full-blown investigation. Threads popped up analyzing Kelly and Blake's dynamic over the years. Old voice clips, backstage interviews, award show moments, everything resurfaced as evidence that this small joke wasn't random. People suggested Kelly knew too much. Others insisted Blake looked caught off guard. And suddenly, Kelly wasn't just a friend. She was the one fans believed had seen behind the curtain of Blake and Gwen's relationship. The craziest part? Kelly had no idea she had just set off a firestorm. Because by the time she walked off that stage, the internet was already writing its own story, one she didn't control, didn't intend, and didn't even know she was part of. And if you think that harmless little moment was the end of it, it wasn't even close. This was just the spark. What came next pulled Gwen, Blake, and Kelly into a rumor that the internet absolutely refused to let die.
If you've ever watched even a single episode of The Voice, you already know how Kelly Clarkson and Blake Shelton operate. Their chemistry isn't subtle, it isn't staged, it isn't the kind of friendliness that feels forced for the cameras. It's loud, chaotic, sibling-like energy. Two people who roast each other so often it should probably count as a competitive sport. Kelly fires off a joke, Blake shoots back twice as fast. Then she rolls her eyes, he leans back in his chair with that smug country boy grin, and the entire panel erupts. It's the kind of dynamic you can't fake. Familiar, unfiltered, comfortable. And because they were so close, fans didn't just see a friendship, they saw a confidant. Someone who'd know way more than she ever said on camera. Over time, the internet built up this idea that Kelly wasn't just Blake's co-host. She was the one person who heard the stuff he didn't say publicly. The fears, the frustrations, the arguments, the messy pieces of life you only tell someone you trust. And once Gwen Stefani entered the picture, that theory only grew. People assumed Kelly had a front-row seat to the entire relationship, every shift, every change, every moment of tension or sweetness behind the scenes. So anytime Kelly laughed too hard, paused too long, gave Blake a look, or teased him about something vague, fans treated it like a breadcrumb. A hidden meaning, a subtle hint, a tiny crack in the polished surface. The funny part? Most of the time, they were just goofing around. But the internet doesn't see goofing around. It sees clues. Clips as Kelly and Blake arguing in that playful family way. Suddenly, there's signs of deep tension. Kelly saying something harmless like, "Oh, Blake always does this." That turns into, Kelly just exposed a pattern Gwen secretly hates. A quick glance from Blake, people freeze frame it and caption it like they're uncovering national secrets. What made it even wilder was how differently people interpreted the exact same moment. Some swore Kelly was hinting at a secret Blake shared off camera. Others insisted she slipped and said too much. A few even claimed the way Blake looked at her afterward proved he didn't want her saying certain things. None of this was spoken out loud. Nobody confirmed anything. But speculation doesn't need confirmation. It just needs momentum. As fans kept dissecting Kelly and Blake's interactions, the theory grew legs. People believed she knew the emotional reality behind the polished interviews. They imagined her hearing late-night frustrations, relationship doubts, private rants, whispered confessions, everything a friend might vent when the cameras stopped rolling. And the more people believed Kelly had inside knowledge, the more weight they gave to every single tiny moment she had with Blake. A laugh wasn't just a laugh. A sigh wasn't just a sigh. A joke wasn't just a joke. Each interaction became a puzzle piece for fans to rearrange into whatever story they wanted to believe. And once you start looking for secret meaning, you'll find it everywhere, even where it doesn't exist. That's how the rumor got its spark. Not from some dramatic confession, not from a leaked message, not from a real disagreement, but from years of people watching Kelly and Blake banter like siblings and assuming that level of closeness meant she knew things Gwen probably wouldn't want shared. And when that one small joke went viral, people connected it to that entire history and convinced themselves Kelly had finally said the quiet part out loud. But the internet didn't stop there.
Once that harmless little joke caught fire, the story shifted fast. People weren't just replaying Kelly's words, they were comparing them to Gwen Stefani's carefully polished public image, and that's where the rumor really took shape. Gwen has always presented herself as composed, stylish, immaculate. Someone who keeps her world curated down to the last detail. So when fans thought Kelly said something that didn't fit that picture, they jumped on it instantly. They claimed the comment felt too real, too unfiltered, nothing like the glossy perfection Gwen usually shows the world. Rumors started spreading that Kelly slipped out a piece of information Gwen would never want circulating. Not a scandal, not something explosive, but something that simply didn't line up with the clean, flawless vibe people associate with her. And because the internet thrives on mismatch and contradiction, that tiny inconsistency turned into a supposedly exposed truth. People began suggesting Gwen would feel threatened if Kelly hinted at anything messy. Some posts claimed Gwen could feel overshadowed by Kelly's honesty. Others insisted Gwen might worry that Kelly, who's known for being straightforward, could accidentally reveal pieces of the relationship Gwen works hard to protect. None of this was confirmed. None of it came from a real source. But online, feelings often get treated like facts. Suddenly, fans imagine Gwen sitting there, watching the clip back, catching that one comment, and instantly overthinking it. They created a whole emotional scenario around it. Gwen feeling insecure, Gwen questioning what Kelly knows, Gwen wondering what Blake confides in his longtime friend. Even though none of this was ever spoken by anyone involved, it spread because people could imagine it. And that imagination is where things escalated. Creators started editing together montages meant to prove something was off. Clips of Gwen looking away during interviews were stitched next to Kelly's joke. Old footage where Gwen wasn't smiling was labeled as Gwen reacting to Kelly's comment. Moments recorded years apart were pieced together like they happened in the same conversation. The videos weren't evidence, they were storytelling. But to viewers scrolling fast, the edits looked convincing. A raised eyebrow became a reaction. A quiet moment became a sign of tension. A frozen frame became the internet's favorite kind of clue, the kind you can read 100 different ways. Some creators even added dramatic captions like, "Kelly went too far here," or "Gwen's face says everything," even though the clips were completely unrelated. And once people saw enough of those stitched edits,
Repetition made it feel real. The rumor became a loop. Shared, reshared, remixed, reinterpreted, building momentum without needing a single fact to support it. That's how a simple, playful comment got twisted into the claim that Kelly exposed something Gwen didn't want out there. A theory built from quick edits, dramatic captions, and assumptions dressed up as revelations. The craziest part? For many viewers, the rumor wasn't just a rumor anymore. It felt like a pattern. The kind of pattern people see when they're already convinced something is hiding under the surface. And the internet loves a hidden layer. It loves the idea that someone knows the truth behind the curtain. And in this story, people decided that someone was Kelly. And that's when fans added a new twist.
Once the rumor gained enough traction, the internet moved to its favorite part of every celebrity story, the reaction. Not the real reaction, of course, because nobody involved said anything, but the imagined reaction, the one fans built piece by piece until it felt almost convincing. According to the online narrative, Gwen Stefani was suddenly placed in a role she never auditioned for, the uneasy partner. Rumors suggested she felt threatened by Kelly's unfiltered personality, not romantically, just emotionally. People claimed Kelly's blunt honesty made Gwen feel exposed, like Kelly could accidentally reveal things Gwen worked hard to keep private. And that's all it took for speculative posts to explode. Users on social platforms began describing Gwen as someone caught off guard, someone who didn't like the idea of Kelly holding pieces of Blake's personal life, pieces she couldn't control. Some said Gwen might have felt overshadowed by the easy, effortless bond between Kelly and Blake. Others framed it as insecurity, imagining Gwen wondering what Blake had shared during all those years of long filming days and backstage downtown. Again, none of this came from Gwen. It all came from fan interpretation, blown up into a narrative that spread far faster than any actual statement ever could. But the theory didn't stop there. Soon, people started claiming Gwen didn't just feel uncomfortable, she supposedly acted on it. Posts circulated saying she pressured Blake to set boundaries with Kelly. Fans speculated that she might have asked him to pull back, limit the jokes, tone down the teasing, maybe even create some emotional distance. There was no proof of this, not a text, not a comment, not a source. Just fans reading into small, harmless interactions and upgrading them into relationship drama. And once people believed Gwen was suspicious of Kelly, they started reinterpreting every single clip she appeared in. A neutral expression? Suddenly she was annoyed. A distracted moment? Labeled as jealous. Her checking her phone? Avoiding Kelly. Every normal, everyday human behavior was reframed to fit the rumor. Fans even slowed down old voice footage to analyze Gwen's reactions when Kelly and Blake joked together. If Gwen blinked during one of their playful arguments, someone turned it into a 5-part theory video. If she wasn't smiling for 2 seconds, creators added captions like, "Gwen didn't like that joke at all." People started connecting moments from completely unrelated interviews, award shows, and backstage clips. Anything that seemed even slightly awkward was repurposed into evidence that Gwen felt threatened by Kelly's presence. And even though every clip was harmless in reality, the internet's dramatization made them look like scenes from a soap opera. Suddenly, a casual laugh became a coded message. A quick glance became tension. A polite nod became a silent cry for help, at least according to the most creative corners of social media. What made the theory stick wasn't accuracy. It was the emotional story people projected onto it. The idea of a polished California pop icon feeling vulnerable next to a blunt, open, Southern-rooted powerhouse like Kelly. The contrast was too juicy for fans to ignore, so they ran with it. And once they decided Gwen was uncomfortable, everything else slotted neatly into place. Fans built entire storylines out of scraps, writing scenes that never existed but felt dramatic enough to believe. But the storyline kept growing.
As the rumor kept spreading, fans didn't just stop at Gwen's alleged reaction. They expanded the story into something bigger, something that felt cinematic. Suddenly, it wasn't just about one joke or one moment. It became a clash of two worlds, Hollywood versus Nashville. In this fan-created version of the story, Gwen represented the polished, high-fashion California glam lifestyle, the world of curated photos, controlled narratives, spotless interviews, and immaculate public appearances. Meanwhile, Blake embodied the opposite, laid back, unfiltered, deeply rooted in the Nashville community, where everyone talks, jokes, and reveals a little too much after midnight backstage. Online discussions started painting these two worlds like rival planets. According to rumors, Gwen wanted Blake to drift away from that Nashville circle. The bars, the late-night hangs, the old friends who knew too many chapters of his past. Not out of malice, but out of a desire for stability, image protection, and maybe even self-preservation. Fans claimed Gwen didn't like that Nashville was unpredictable. People talked too much, stories traveled fast, and everyone knew everyone's business, especially Blake's. And that's where Kelly suddenly got pulled back into the spotlight. Because in this story, she wasn't just a friend, she became the truth teller in the middle of the supposed culture clash. People imagined her as the one who saw both sides, the polished Hollywood side through her years in the spotlight, and the raw Nashville energy from being around artists who don't sugarcoat anything. That made Kelly a problem in these rumors. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she didn't match the quiet, perfected image some fans believed Gwen wanted to maintain. And once fans decided Kelly represented honesty, they treated every comment she ever made about Blake like a confession. Every joke became a revelation. Every laugh sounded like it carried too much knowledge. And every playful jab felt like Kelly letting something slip that was supposed to stay behind closed doors. It didn't matter that none of this was true. What mattered was how perfectly it fit the fan-made narrative. Hollywood loves perfection. Nashville loves authenticity. And Kelly? She was being cast as the one person with a foot in both worlds, someone who might reveal things unintentionally just by being herself. The rumor grew even more when creators started saying Gwen wanted Blake to distance himself from that old circle, from the unpredictable chaos that comes with the Nashville lifestyle. They pointed to moments where Blake seemed quieter or less involved in certain events, weaving them into a storyline where he was slowly shifting away from his roots. Of course, none of this was backed by evidence, but that didn't stop people from imagining long, tense discussions behind mansion doors. Gwen asking Blake to be more private, more careful, more controlled. Fans turned these completely fictional conversations into understood truths, repeating them so often they started sounding legitimate. And throughout all of it, Kelly remained the accidental centerpiece, the friend caught in the crossfire. Not because she did anything wrong, but because fans believed she represented the part of Blake's world that Gwen couldn't influence. One side, shiny and curated, the other, loud and unpredictable, and Kelly standing right at the intersection, unknowingly becoming the bridge fans used to connect the two worlds in their narrative. And once that perspective took hold, the theories didn't just grow, they exploded. Then, the theories got even more dramatic.
And once the Hollywood versus Nashville angle caught frying, the internet did what it always does. It appointed a whole army of self-declared detectives. People who usually analyzed movie Easter eggs or true crime documentaries suddenly shifted their focus to Blake, Gwen, and Kelly. And it became a full-time mission. Clips that were once harmless, funny, sweet, or completely meaningless were now treated like they held national secrets. One raised eyebrow, Gwen felt threatened. A quick glance during a conversation, Kelly knows too much. Blake scratching his beard, obvious sign of stress. Fans weren't just watching interviews anymore. They were breaking them down frame by frame, circling hands, zooming in on micro-expressions, and analyzing body language like FBI instructors. A 2-second pause became a confession. A nervous laugh was potential guilt. A casual gesture suddenly held deep psychological meaning. And it wasn't just new clips being dissected. People started digging into interviews from years ago, forgotten award shows, backstage videos, bloopers from The Voice, and even shaky fan cam footage from live shows. Anything that could be twisted into proof became part of this giant fan-made case file. Soon, TikTok, Reddit, and Instagram were flooded with emotional edits and dramatic rewrites of events that never happened. Creators stitched old videos with ominous music, slow zooms, and text that read like a soap opera script. She knew the truth. He didn't want her to say it. This moment changed everything. Hosts of reaction channels leaned in. Voiceover creators built entire narratives around small, normal human behaviors. Fans cried in comments over scenes that weren't even real. A handful of random moments had now evolved into an emotionally charged storyline, with characters, motives, betrayal arcs, and heartbreaking tension. Blake became the conflicted man, torn between two worlds. Gwen was framed as the guarded Hollywood figure, protecting her image. Kelly was painted as the truth teller, the wild card, the friend who wasn't supposed to reveal too much. And because fans were emotionally invested, they wanted the story to continue. That's the thing about internet detectives. They don't just analyze, they create. Every new clip added fuel. Every unrelated interview became another puzzle piece. Every silence became suspicious. A rumor that started as a small whisper had now transformed into a living, breathing online drama. An evolving fan fiction where people swore they knew the truth, even though none of it was actually true. And just when it felt like the theories had hit a peak, something else kept pushing the rumor higher. Something much more human. Because the emotional layer is what made this rumor explode.
So, why did this rumor grow into something so huge, so dramatic, and so strangely personal for so many people? It's because underneath all the celebrity names, the stage lights, and the glossy interviews, this entire storyline taps into real human emotions. When fans imagine Gwen feeling threatened, or Kelly knowing too much, or Blake being caught in the middle, they're not just watching celebrities. They're watching pieces of themselves. Because who hasn't felt insecure at some point? Who hasn't wondered whether someone else knows your partner in a deeper way? Who hasn't worried about being replaced, forgotten, or pushed aside? Jealousy, fear, vulnerability, these are universal. They're the quiet emotions people don't like admitting in their own lives. But when they see celebrities in a similar situation, even if the situation is totally made up, it becomes easier to feel those emotions from a distance. Safer, even. And that's where the fan fiction-like appeal kicks in. People aren't just watching Blake, Gwen, and Kelly anymore. They're creating a story where every glance, every joke, every harmless interaction has emotional weight. It's the same reason people binge romance novels or watch dramatic TV shows. Except here, the characters feel real, because they're actual people with real faces and real relationships. Fans project their own experiences onto them. Someone who once felt overshadowed by a friend might see that in Kelly. Someone who struggled with jealousy might project that onto Gwen. Someone who felt stuck between two worlds might relate to Blake. And suddenly, a rumor isn't just a rumor, it becomes a mirror. The internet loves drama, but it loves relatable drama even more. The kind that lets people feel what they're afraid to say out loud. The kind that lets them pick a side, defend a character, write an interpretation, and feel emotionally invested in something that doesn't affect their real life. That's why these stories stick. Not because they're true, but because they tap into emotions that are true. And once emotions get involved, facts don't stand a chance.
When you strip away all the speculation, the frame-by-frame analyses, and the fan-made storylines, a very simple truth emerges. Real life is nothing like the internet thinks it is. Blake, Gwen, and Kelly aren't walking through a scripted drama every day. They aren't timing their expressions to create viral gossip. They go to work, spend time with loved ones, and make decisions just like anyone else. Yet online, they've been cast into a very different world, one written entirely by the audience's imagination. Fans, intentionally or not, turn moments into scenes from a movie. A casual joke on set becomes a reveal. A glance across the room becomes a betrayal. An offhand comment in an interview becomes evidence of secrets long buried. And the more people engage, the bigger the story grows. The small sparks of reality are fanned into a roaring bonfire of drama. But here's the fascinating part. The rumor doesn't thrive because it's true. It thrives because it feels true on a human level. The internet builds a narrative that mirrors emotions everyone knows: jealousy, insecurity, fear of losing someone, the pain of being misunderstood. People recognize these feelings instantly, so the story resonates, even when nothing in it actually happened. That's why the Gwen, Kelly, Blake saga exploded. Not because of real-life conflict, but because it taps into emotional familiarity. In the eyes of fans, it's almost cinematic. Hollywood glamour meets Nashville authenticity, a truth-teller caught in the middle, and emotions running high behind closed doors. And just like a movie, everyone has a role, everyone has a motive, and the tension feels palpable, even if the script exists only online. The remarkable thing is how people will fill in the blanks. Every pause, every smile, every moment of silence is turned into a plot point. Ordinary actions become extraordinary drama. And the more dramatic it gets, the more people want to watch, comment, share, and speculate. Meanwhile, the real people at the center, Blake, Gwen, and Kelly, likely have no idea how many scenes the internet has created around them. They're living normal lives while millions are imagining secrets, confrontations, and heartbreaks that never actually happened. The lesson here is clear. The story grows not because of facts, but because it feels emotionally familiar. It's a reflection of us, our fears, our insecurities, our curiosity. And that's why the line between reality and online fantasy is almost impossible to separate once the rumor gains momentum. Every click, every comment, every speculation adds a brushstroke to a painting that exists entirely in the public imagination. The internet doesn't just consume the story, it creates it, paints it with emotion, and convinces itself it's seeing something real. And from there, the rumor doesn't just exist, it thrives. But after all this imagined drama, there's a truth that's far simpler and far more human.
When you look at the Gwen Kelly-Blake saga, it's easy to get lost in the drama. But there's a huge difference between real life and internet storytelling. In reality, these celebrities are just people living ordinary, complicated lives. Blake goes to work, Gwen manages her projects, Kelly handles her family and career. They don't plan viral moments or stage emotional confrontations for fans to dissect. Online, however, it's a completely different world. The public imagination builds an alternate movie around them, scene by scene. A casual joke on The Voice becomes a secret revelation. A sideways glance becomes proof of jealousy. Even the tiniest pause is framed as tension or betrayal. The fascinating part is how emotion fuels the rumor. It doesn't matter whether the events actually happened. The story resonates because people see parts of themselves in it. Jealousy, insecurity, fear of being replaced, the frustration of being misunderstood. These are universal emotions. Fans connect instantly because, on a human level, it feels real. And once a story resonates emotionally, the line between fact and fiction disappears. Every social media post, every interview, every behind-the-scenes clip gets reinterpreted to fit the narrative. It's no longer just a rumor. It becomes a fan-created drama, complete with roles, motives, and conflicts. The internet doesn't just consume the story, it builds it, paints it with emotion, and convinces itself it's witnessing something authentic. A harmless conversation turns into a betrayal. A laugh becomes a confession. A glance becomes a silent argument. Meanwhile, the real Blake, Gwen, and Kelly are living life like everyone else, probably completely unaware of the elaborate movie the internet has made about them. And that's the strange power of this phenomenon. The rumor grows not because of facts, but because it taps into something deeply human. It's a reminder that what seems like celebrity drama often tells us more about ourselves than about the stars themselves. And once the story's out there, fueled by emotion and imagination, it becomes almost impossible to separate the reality from the online fantasy. And after all this, the truth behind the chaos is far simpler and far more human.
After walking through all the twists, theories, and imagined confrontations, it's worth stepping back and looking at the bigger picture. The Gwen, Kelly, Blake saga, as wild and dramatic as it seems online, tells us more about us than it does about them. It's not really about secret fights or emotional explosions behind the scenes. It's about how easily people project their own fears, insecurities, and experiences onto others. Fans see jealousy, vulnerability, and confusion in moments that might have been completely ordinary. They fill in the blanks with their imagination, crafting a story that resonates emotionally, even if it's far from reality. And that's why these rumors stick, because emotions are universal, and the audience connects with them instantly. It's a fascinating reminder. The stories we consume, comment on, and share aren't always about the people at the center. They're mirrors reflecting parts of ourselves. We're drawn to drama because it lets us explore feelings we don't often admit, like fear of being misunderstood or the discomfort of feeling caught between two worlds. At the end of the day, Blake, Gwen, and Kelly are living real lives. They're navigating friendship, work, and personal challenges, just like anyone else. The internet might turn a glance into a plot twist, a joke into a confession, and a pause into tension, but the real story is simpler, quieter, and far more human. So next time a rumor goes viral or a fan theory spreads like wildfire, pause for a second. Remember that it's just as much about the people watching as the people being watched. It's a reflection of curiosity, empathy, and the emotions we all carry. If you found this video interesting or even just entertaining, drop a like, hit subscribe, and share it with someone who loves diving into celebrity stories. It's a small gesture, but it keeps this conversation going. And here's a thought to leave you with. In a world where stories can spiral out of control in minutes, maybe the real power isn't in knowing the truth, but in understanding the emotions behind it, because that's what makes us human, and that's what keeps us watching, imagining, and connecting.